Hey guys, evening guys. Hope everyone is well. Hope everyone is blessed. Let me just wait for Curtis to see if he's on. Social race, where is he? Let's see if he will join. Curtis, man, that was quick. Here we go. All right, we're going live with the social work race. Yeah, I have. What screen? Curtis, you good, bro?
Very good, man.
Yeah, man. How are you, man?
I want to let people know that I love my job, but I have to take a breath.
Yeah,
You know
bro.
what I mean? I love it. I mean, today, at the end of the day, me, my manager, and our colleagues were just having a chit chat about
Yeah,
some serious cases. And I
yeah.
love, hearing the stories in a sense. It's not that I want to hear that people are doing badly, but I love to hear and get involved in the nitty gritty. But yeah, that's what we was doing, is having a bit of a laugh at the end, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But it was also serious as well, like, some stuff going on out there.
bro. Listen, I'm in court tomorrow at 9 o'clock. I literally in court tomorrow. Um, yeah, I'm a bit tired. I've booked in my toil, but yeah, I'm a bit tired. I'm not gonna lie. I'm actually knackered, innit?
But you now you got to look out now and say, well, how many emails are you coming back to?
Yeah, I know. It's nature of the beast, isn't it? The beast.
Yeah,
The beast, yeah. But now, man, it's good to have you on. I'm glad actually we're gonna do this this live in it because it's an interesting topic. And when I, saw your post to do with power, um, I kind of wanted to dive into that in terms of like what you were saying, because you spoke about how a actually, I'll let the people know, do your post in it. So talk to the people, Curtis, about your post to do with power.
yeah. Good evening, everyone. So yeah, first of all, I'm just going to say again, it's an honor to be on the show with you. You know what I'm saying? Love sharing social work stories, helping people make sense. In fact, I think I better give it an intro to what this is about as well, because
Yeah.
we're helping frontline workers, social workers, and my platform is there to help people make sense of their studies on the ground. So when you've left university and maybe you've gone into placement, even when you've gone into placement, some of what you have done doesn't necessarily make sense. I'm about helping people learn so that their practice is really efficient.
Yeah.
They don't become overwhelmed and leave after a year or two. Do you know what I mean? And this is what's happening a lot. So we have these discussions to help people understand what they're doing in the job in the first place and to develop resilience. So I put out a post. I was talking to an area director. So we all call it something different in different local authorities, I guess. This is like
Yeah.
myself, team manager, then service manager, then area director, and she manages, the whole, the assessment team that I'm in. And so I was talking to her and another social worker in virtually. And when I first met her, she never presented. I didn't know who she was, but she was saying hello to everybody. I was thinking, why is she saying hello? She must know everybody. Of course, great. She says hello to everybody, very polite. Everyone's being very polite to her, genuinely polite to her. Didn't know who she was when I first started. And she never introduced herself as to who she was. And first day of 7th day placement, well done. And so when she did that, over time I realized who she was.
Mm.
And so myself and another social worker were talking to her on virtually, and she said, and the other social worker who had just started where I'm working said to her, "Who are you?" And she's like, does it matter?
Yeah.
You know. And I knew, but I didn't say, because if she wanted to say, she would have said for herself. She said she doesn't want to say who she is, because she doesn't want people to change the way they behave because of who she is. Now, that's a risk because you would expect that, you know, in order for her to maintain some integrity as a leader,
Yeah.
you say, I'm so and so. But she's worried, worried genuinely, you know, I don't want people to change the way they behave. What I was seeing was someone who knew what to do with power and hierarchy.
Yeah.
But that speaks volumes because that attitude will then filter down the
chain. Yeah.
down the chain to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I brought it up and said, you know, it's impressive to see a manager who has a lot of responsibility not wave their power around. And that was the post. How some people manage power and manage power in their hierarchy. But it also causes us as social workers or whatever level of profession you are to question how you manage powers. That's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Curtis, you make some fantastic points about power because, you know, I kind of like reflect and I kind of look at myself really being in the position that I'm in. And, you know, one of the things that I've always said, even when, you know, even when I was when I started as a newly qualified social worker and, you know, I started kind of like, you know, progressing up the chain, is that I've always said that, you know, no matter what level you are in the chain, you're always still a qualified social worker anyway. But obviously, as you said, as you get higher up, there's a part of you that will need to change, but there's a part of you that also needs to still be personable. So as I've kind of gone up, you know, I mean, a lot of people, you know, when they come and see me, you know, they're like, oh, I want to speak to the, you know, the team manager. I want to have a discussion with him. And it's like, oh, I'm a team manager. Oh, you're the team manager. So I'm quite relaxed because I think
wait, what does that mean? Like, oh, you're the team manager. What do you mean?
It's mad because, do you know what it is? It's like, so when a lot of people do approach me, apart from those who know me, maybe you're somebody new or might be a student and you might you know, introduce myself. I'll be like, oh, you know, hi, you know, I'm Nana. And oh, you're Nana, you're the team manager. I was like, yeah, I'm the team manager. But I think some are kind of like very shocked because I'm just very, very chilled and relaxed because I don't want to go and create kind of like a thing whereby it's like, you know, like when you work as a social worker, it's like you said it earlier, that, you know, some people are kind of like, they're not scared, but it's like, remember, to kind of talk to like a director or they don't know how to kind of approach it. So I've always wanted to create kind of like a relaxed environment, you know, that, yeah, I'm the team manager, but, you know, I'm still a social worker as well, because I don't want to go and abuse my power. I don't think it's a good way of working. Do you know what I mean? Some people, when they progress up the chain, they become a bit more authoritarian. Others, you know, become relaxed. So I've always tried to kind of maintain that balance. And I think actually for me, it's you know, it's helped. And I get probably why the director was probably saying to you that another social worker that she didn't want to let people know who she was, because ultimately people might respond to her a bit more different. Oh, it's the director of children's services. You know, I can't. Do you know what I mean? You know, so I think it's important when you are in a position of authority that you're aware of the kind of power that you have. But you have to continue to kind of remain very personable because good leaders are personable.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What do you think it represents? Okay, let me make a statement. How we treat each other is a reflection of what?
What, in social work or in general?
Within the office environment, as social workers or as professionals. So in my team, we've got youth practitioners and social workers and managers, but you can't tell who's who.
Yeah.
You understand? But so therefore, I'm asking you the question: The fact that you can't tell who's who, what do you think that reflects?
I just think it's about mutual respect, to be honest with you, because I've always had this thing whereby nobody's bigger than anybody.
Mm.
When I'm in the office, people know who I am. They know I'm the team manager for, this child protection team. But when I'm in the office, I greet people. But I think it's a reflection of me. I'm very personable. I'm that person. I go to different departments. I say hello to people. I introduce myself. Oh, I'm Nana. How are you guys doing? Like down to the cleaner. Oh, how are you doing? How's your day been? Do you know what I mean? It's a reflection of kind of me. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I don't feel that my position in management means I'm better than anybody. That's my view. I think being a team manager, as I got, I haven't changed. I've never felt, well, actually, you know what? Oh yeah, I'm a team manager. That means, what do you call it? That means people can't come and speak to me. People can't come and approach me. People can't come and talk to me. So I've always just remained the same. Do you know what I mean? I think it's very, very important. Position really, as you go up, will change you to a degree, but your personality, to a degree, you shouldn't really change that. And I haven't, Curtis, wanted to change that. When I've gone into the office, because I don't feel that, obviously there's a certain level of respect we should all have for each other, but I don't feel that because I'm a team manager, it means you can't come and speak to me. And you can't, because do you know what I mean? It's that for me is neither here nor there. I'm a team manager. I'm still Nana. You can still talk to me. Yeah, it shouldn't change you.
Question.
Dear social worker, you know what? It's funny you should say that, because I've actually asked my team this actually. How is it they've viewed me and my management style? And one of the things, Curtis, that I'm quite proud of is that my team actually said, Nana, you know what? You're one of the best managers that we've had. You're very, very laid back. And it's kind of like they've said, Nana, if you were to ever leave the borough and walk, we would also walk and follow you. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, it's bad for the borough, but in terms of me, it just shows that actually I'm doing a lot of things right, if that makes sense. The fact that my team have been able to give me that 50%, Nana, you know what? You're a fantastic manager. You're very, very laid back. We like your style. We wouldn't be in the team if you weren't leading the team, which is, for me, is positive. It shows, Curtis, that actually I'm doing my job, very, very well, because I try to, Curtis, be very much understanding with the team that I manage. And I manage a team of 7 people. So, there's times where actually, even when it comes to performance, although things need to get done, I'm very much aware of the pressures that the team have. So when I discuss it in kind of like supervision and all those sorts of things, I'm not really heavy with the team, because I understand the pressures, and I think the team do appreciate that. Even when it comes to leave and all those sorts of things, you'll rarely see me saying no. Our system, as long as the work is done, I'm happy, and there isn't kind of like a me and them. My team always know that they can approach me, they can speak to me, and I've never wanted to create an environment where, but actually, my team feel they can't speak to me. Do you know what I'm saying? And I've always said to the team that part of being a good manager is also knowing how not to use your power on your team, but also when to use it, but to use it in a way that actually is constructive, not to use it in a way that you make your team feel shitty. Because without my team, I can't be a manager. I can't lead my child protection team without my team. Do you know what I'm saying? So I let them know that I actually value them and value the work they're doing. Without them, there's no team. There is no Nana who's a team manager. It's just me on my own. So that's why, Curtis, and me, I don't really go and abuse my power when it comes to them, because I don't think for me that despite me going up the chain, that I should change. More times people will stay in local authorities or stay in teams because actually, even if things are tough,
Yeah.
they've got a very, very good manager. And for me, my team have said they will never. I mean, those who leave will leave for their own reasons. But if they do leave, they've always going to said it's not because you haven't been a good manager. We're leaving for our own reasons. But it's not for the fact that we haven't found you to be a fantastic manager. Do you know what I mean? And I think for me, that's very, very important in social work. You know, having integrity, being personable, and being respectful in all arenas. And regardless of which way you progress, regardless of which way you go, you have to be personable and have integrity in this job.
Yeah, do you know what? I wanted to just to be clear. I had an idea to look at how we work in our teams, in our office, and then also look at how we carry that into working with service users as well. But yeah, we're talking about the office, so I guess I would like to ask the audience here: send through your best power quotes. That would indicate positivity in how we should be thinking as people of power.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? What is it a reflection of when someone is using their power to oppress slightly, even slightly?
Oh.
And I'm asking the audience as well.
Yeah. So you're going into kind of like you're going into like a bit of more of a deeper realm. So obviously social work 101 is anti-discriminatory and anti-oppressive practice. We learned that completely in university. So to even be slightly oppressive for me is wrong. I think that means your value system is completely off. If you are oppressing a little bit, you shouldn't, in my view, you shouldn't, because that's the bread and butter. In your first year of university, every single student, social student, learns that. So if you're going to be oppressive, it's a poor reflection, to be honest with you. Really, really, really poor reflection of how you're going to practice, you know, and it's going to impact on the families that we're working with. Also, being oppressive towards your team as well. There are some managers out there, Curtis, who are very oppressive and very heavy-handed, who will say to their team, if you don't get this done, you're out of a job. Do you know what I mean? That you're out of a job. So I think a lot of the times, I also take that. I also feel that people also have their own issues outside of work. And what they do is that they bring it into work. Some managers, you know, or some professionals do have maybe personal issues that are going on outside of the work arena, outside office arena, and then they bring it into work. And then they're abusing their power left, right, and center. So I think a lot of it is to do with, you know, what's going on for them. They might have a lack of confidence. You know, there could be lots of things, Curtis, that are going on for them, which is why they're acting in a certain way, honestly.
Yeah, I want to touch on that, actually. I think I've mentioned it before. I believe that the abuse of power is always coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
Not out of thin air. It is partly connected to personality.
Yeah.
And personality is also informed by experiences as well. I believe that when you're looking at someone who's abusing, in the same way, when we do our assessments of, say, typically men who abuse their female partners, that level of abuse, we frown upon it and we explore it, we analyze it, and we realize it. Where did this come from? Why is it happening? We speak against it. It's unpleasant to see. However, that level of abuse can be the same spirit in the profession.
Yeah.
Against our own cohort. It's interesting that we see that.
Yeah.
But then again, the same thing that happens and that we have to be careful of as managers, I guess we're speaking to managers now and encouraging them that the same thing that happens when you abuse someone is that the other person can tend to be silent.
That's right.
And they absorb it and then it becomes their narrative. And that's what happens in the workplace. People become silent, apprehensive, tentative, walking on eggshells, you know, and then expecting good performance from that.
Yeah, and they won't perform.
Yeah.
and they won't perform. And it's interesting because I remember in my one of my previous boroughs, you know, and I remember there was one stage whereby, you know, the manager found us too talkative in the office.
Yeah.
And then eventually at one stage everyone came in and everyone was very quiet. And people just felt weird about it. Everybody was very quiet, you know. And then eventually the managers addressed it and we said, look, in this line of work, yeah, obviously we're not children, we're adults. And, you know, somebody's mentioned here is about workplace culture. Workplace culture is very, very important as well. And you don't want to feel that you're in a workplace whereby it's almost like a school. You know, you want to be able to feel that there's a sense of kind of like community and unity. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, within the work, you know, you mentioned about office spaces. That's what you kind of want to be able to feel. It needs to be a place whereby actually, you know, you can, you know, you've got community. You can speak to people, but it shouldn't be authoritarian, or you shouldn't feel, you know, that actually you're coming to a workplace whereby actually you are treading on eggshells. You know, this job is already tough as it is. The last thing you need is extra pressure or a sense of discomfort when you're coming into the office to come and do your job. Do you know what I mean? You know, and workplace politics happens a lot, and it's not nice when you're on the receiving end. You know, it isn't. To be honest with you, so like that's another issue as well. Workplace politics, it happens, and it's kind of linked to hopefully to power. Sometimes you have people who just are in cliques and everything. For me, Curtis, I was never about that. I don't do any of that. So you will never catch me being a clique or anything. If I go out, it'd be my team. But no one can influence me and go and say, you can't go to this department, this and this and this. It's not nice at all. You know what I'm saying? So I've never been a part of that, oh, this work kind of clique. It's nonsense. It's bullshit, to be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? And people shouldn't feel like that. That, oh, you know, this group's going out. You know what's mad? And I'm gonna say this on the live anyway.
Careful now. No names, yeah?
Don't worry, innit? But the social worker who I line manage, yeah. And it's mad because he went like, so the team obviously is new, innit? But, you know, he lacks a lot of confidence and, you know, in terms of working it. And when I broke it down with him, he was kind of saying to me, you know, that previously, before I came in, is the fact that this manager, you know, had favorites, and like certain team members would go out and he would just go and do things like duty tasks. You know what I'm saying? And he wouldn't go out of the team or anything. And so now that I've kind of like, since I've been in the team, he said he hasn't felt happier. You know, when we go out, he feels included. And obviously it's not nice to hear that, you know, somebody actually felt that type of way, that, you know, even when it comes to your cases, you don't feel that you're working your cases well. Do you know what I mean? You know, but now, you know, since I've come in, you know, you've got the confidence, you know, you feel included in things, you know, you don't feel left out. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, so you know, I mean, a lot of those things, they do happen, and it's not right, and it's not a value that I stand by. You know, for social workers to come and feel that way, you know, I don't really think it's fair. So I just think it's important, you know, looking at my position and thinking about where I'm at, that you cannot be going and using your power like that within the workspace. It's not fair. Even Curtis, with students, you know, I reflect and look at myself, you know, that even the podcast that we're doing, and the stuff that me and you are doing and everything, um if students come and message, you know, they'll message me and everything, or they'll approach me and everything, I don't go and say, oh, you know what, just because I'm where I'm at, that no students should come and, like, you know, that's not the way to run things. Do you know what I'm saying? And I guess to me, it's because I think my personality from day one, like anybody who speaks to me says, "Oh, Nana's a nice person." It's just because I just think for me, I don't gain anything, Curtis, from putting people down. Like I don't. So I've always kind of said to myself that, you know, no matter how far I go up the chain, I still want people to be able to feel as though actually, you know what, you can always still approach me. I don't want to have this vim about me that you can't come and speak to me because I'm a director. You can't speak to me because nah. I've never ever wanted that.
Mm.
That's how I maneuver. I don't want people to think that, oh, you know what, I can't approach you. I can't go and speak to you, because it's not a good way of being able to practice, because that would also impact upon how I work with families. Do you know what I'm saying? I want families who I'm working with, who work with, to feel as though I can actually speak to my social worker. Do you know what I mean? Or I can speak to the manager. I had a complaint that I literally shut down today because the parent said to me that, you know what, I was going to take it all the way, but how you came and you spoke to me, he had a complaint about social worker. I said, how you came and spoke to me, I didn't even want to make a complaint, and sent an email to my head of service to say, you know what, the way Nana spoke to me and how he broke and he listened, I didn't want to make a complaint about the social worker. Do you know what I mean? Like, all those things, Curtis, they make a big difference, you know, a big difference. And I could have been like, you know what, nah, I'm a team manager, what I say goes. But I said, nah, you know what, it don't matter. Let me just talk, listen. It's about relationship-based practice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, that's the crux of it. You know, it's a big thing. You know, I'm telling you, it is. But you mentioned, Curtis, about using power with service users. And I want you to just go in a bit more in terms of what you mean. Are you talking about when we're working with cases, or how we work, or when we make decisions?
Well, I believe I just put out a video from an excellent man, a good friend of mine. I'm very fortunate to know him. His name is Eddie Hippolyte, right? You go on my page, you'll see a clip. But if you go on my YouTube channel, you'll see the full video. We've had that video for 6 months. And something that he says there, and it's actually in the clip on, I think, all the platforms I've got, this morning, was saying that the ripple effect of, first of all, social workers, the perception of power and power versus each other, perception is more powerful. So the perception of anything is more powerful than the thing itself.
Yeah.
If I'm afraid of you, that's more powerful than the fact that you've got nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we step into families' lives, what we can do is we can create a legacy, or support them to create a legacy, or we can exacerbate the fears that they already have. So our approach is key for them to turn a corner in their life. That's why they're involved with us. So one thing that Eddie was saying was that, you know, we can compound the problems that they have.
Yeah.
Just by turning up wrong, you know, just by that first 30 seconds. Now, you know, it's not always on us. Sometimes the families are, you know, they don't want to know. But for those who are new, or even those who have already been in the system and are engaging with us, we've got 30 seconds to tell them how it's going to go. And a lot of that is unspoken, the way that we step to these families. And so what we can do is we can wave our power around, because sometimes, and this is what I'm going to look at us now, because sometimes we are afraid of who we're about to deal with. We want to put them in their place by asserting a level of power.
Yeah.
To protect ourselves. It's us that's afraid. But what we do in that process is that we can destroy them, or send them further down the hill that they're already going down. So that's one thing I want to look at. The other thing I want to look at, and you know, stop me and, you know, cut me whenever you want, is, you know, the way that we write our assessments
Mm,
is sometimes a reflection of how we feel about ourselves.
yeah,
So what am I saying? I'm saying, you know, we have the power to change lives
yeah,
by writing an assessment that is true or false.
we do, we do, we do. But Curtis, you know what? When you mentioned earlier about power and you mentioned about challenging parents, now I want to go in a bit deeper with what you're saying, because the other side of it now is there is also a part of social workers that actually, in some cases, that there's a point where actually you are going to have to use your power in certain situations, not to abuse, but there's certain times about actually you have to actually go and put your foot down
Yeah.
with families. And the reason why I say that is because I think there's certain circumstances and certain cases of families we may work with, and potentially things are not changing potentially at all. Yeah, and it's about, you know, having those uncomfortable conversations to explain what power potentially we may use, if things don't, if things are not stepping up. So, but it's about the measure
Yeah.
and the range of it, because I feel as though, like, particularly like you mentioned about our perception, and you mentioned about how people feel, and you're right, and obviously most families don't want us to be involved, but there's certain times where actually, nah, I have to use this power because actually it's necessary, but it's how you measure it. I can give an example where I've gone to see a parent with a social worker, and this parent is just not cutting it, always making excuses about everybody. Yeah, I'm saying taking no responsibility. Wants to change social worker. Yeah, so I've gone to go and deal with it, and so when I've gone there in my role as team manager, okay, so you've met the manager now, right? So, okay, so it's getting serious. So I've spoken to the parent and said, look, I'm being honest with you because I don't come and see you all the time. The social worker does, and I'm not happy with what I'm seeing on the case file or what's happening in terms of for your children. And I'm not trying to set you up to fail. So I'm happy to say to you straight away, that, you know, we do want to work with you. We want you to be able to make necessary changes. But if changes are not made and more things take place, this is the route that we'll be going. That's not about me threatening you or anything. What that's about is about me telling you about the process. Do you know what I'm saying? But I'm not saying it, Curtis, in a bad way. So what I'm saying is that there are circumstances in our world where actually power has to be used in certain circumstances. Do you know what I mean? And you have to make sure you measure it. Only because, particularly if you're working with children, we have to make quite difficult decisions on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes, Curtis, this is no disrespect to some families. Sometimes there's some families who are not getting it. Sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's times about actually, you know what, you have to up the level. Do you know what I'm saying? We have to up the level in terms of what we're doing, and explain potentially why we're using this power, but you have to be able to rationalize it. So I'm not saying to social workers that you just go in there and you be like, if you don't do this, I'm gonna take your children away. No, 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 no. That's not what I'm saying. But if you have to use your power to a certain degree because actually you want there to be changes, it's how you rationalize it and how you measure it. But it's in particular circumstances and it's a case by case basis. So yes, we work for the local authority. Yeah. So you know, when you look at terminology, they call us the local authority. Like, we're not the government, we work for the government, but we're the local authority. So, you know, there's a certain level of
Power. There's power in
power
authority. Yeah.
that we have. You know, by
Designated power is what
designated power,
authority.
yeah, by
Yeah.
virtue of you, you know, by virtue of you having your badge. And I think these social workers, you're right, that I think a lot of social workers, some social workers are scared to use their power. And I think a part of that, is
I don't. Are you still getting comments? I haven't had any for a while.
yeah, I'm gonna go through the comments. So I'm gonna go through the comments. So I'm just gonna go before I answer the question. I'm gonna go.
They're not showing up for me, so I'm just.
Yeah, yeah. So Mr. Intelligence said workers, it will get to the point it's even taken from the social workers' hands because that's the process of the system that we work for. We don't make the rules, we employ to inform them. This is my advice to social workers because at the end of each case, they are the face of the service you work for, but will receive the backlash from families if if it doesn't go the family's way. Which is right. You know, that Curtis will what at times happen, whereby actually if it doesn't go the family's way, we receive the backlash, and we do, which is why I think sometimes when social workers are using their power, you got to tell families the reason why you're doing it. This particular parent that I spoke to, I told the parent straight, you need to fix up, like straight up, you need to fix up because I'm not happy that I'm hearing all these referrals. Like I said it in the family network meeting, you ain't cutting it. Straight, you're not cutting it. And I said, I'm not gonna lie to you because if I lie to you, yeah, I'm setting you up to fail. So I said, I told the parent, listen, fix up. I can't be seeing all this ABC 1 2 3. Yeah, what I'm hearing from you making excuses. That's what you're making. I don't want to be hearing you making excuses because you had a lot of support. So I had to be a bit more raggle, but I was aware of why. And when the family was there, they understood. So I said to the family, listen, I'm telling you this in front of the parent here because I don't want you or anyone of you to come and say that the local authority didn't tell you about it. Because sometimes with a lot of parents, they might go and say, well, you know, actually, the social worker didn't tell me that I wasn't doing well. Do you know what I'm saying? But on this occasion, I had to arrange it. Do you know what I'm saying? But I had to say, you need. Oh, okay, guys, I'm gonna get Curtis back. But what I was saying, guys, is that in this particular instance, yeah, there's times about actually you have to be firm. Yeah, you know, as a social worker, you have to also be firm. Have to actually be firm. So in that instance, yeah, I had to put my foot down and go and say, you know what, fix up because it's not working. Yeah, and also let Curtis serious. Let me get him back in. Hold on. Yeah, Curtis, sorry about it. Yeah, no worries. Yeah. No, Curtis, what I was saying in a nutshell is that there's times about actually, there's times where Curtis actually, no worries. There's times, Curtis, where but actually the power that social workers have is warranted. Sometimes you gotta be firm. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you gotta put your foot down and say, nah.
Like, but I find it interesting because this is always an area of contention because I think that this is someone asked in a live I did once, please explain more about critical reflection. Because critical reflection means that you have to ask yourself, what are you afraid of, or how do you feel about this particular family? How do you feel about how you're writing about them? How do you feel about how you're engaging with them? To check yourself, because you might be exercising something of power that might be unfair or might not be enough. Now, when we say power, you can use your personality as the power, which is what you were just describing.
Yeah.
You know, and some families you cannot do that with, and some you can, and we recognize that. And in some of them you can make them, you know, and when we say it wouldn't work too well, because some families that type of what you described management might make it worse, but you know who you can do that with. But I would reflect on myself and say, how am I engaging with that family? So you described a worker earlier on, and they need to critically reflect and make adaptations, because that level of suppression that they have within themselves in practice, they're going to carry it into their work.
Yeah.
And so that's why we critically reflect on ourselves to ask ourselves, why do I feel like this?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you have to always reflect on why you're feeling like this. And that's what I'm saying. When it comes to power and all those sorts of things, if because there's some, like, because even today, I dealt with a particular school, and the school have like the school and this parent are not getting on, and the school want this case to go to CP, child protection, and it's not a CP case.
Yeah.
And what I said to the social worker is that this particular school or safeguarding lead doesn't like this particular parent at all. And what I had to say to the school is that what you can't be doing, you can't be using the local authority and saying that we need to go to child protection.
Wow.
It's too draconian. It doesn't mean I said that's not what you should be asking us to do. It's a child in need case. It won't go to CP. But I said to the particular school that you can't be using child protection in that way. And what it is that they just don't like this particular parent. But I'm not even going to ask for it to go to conference. It's not that. So sometimes being aware of other professionals, if other professionals, because one thing a lot of professionals like to do is they like to use the local authority as weapons. So we're their weapons at disposal. We're the ones, do you know what I mean? So a lot of the times, that's right.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of the times what you find in social work is that other professionals will like to use the local authority as their
Punishment.
Yeah.
Tool.
Or as their tool. Because going to conference, they feel as though, yeah, the family deserve it. So you have to also check professionals and tell them straight. Do not, and I told this school, do not ask me as the manager, to be wanting to go to conference because you have an issue with this family. That's not why I'm going to child protection. That is not the reason why. So you've got to check professionals as well, because professionals know the authority we've got. And remember,
wow,
social workers are the ones who will take the hit, not the school or health. Do you know what I mean? And I always say to them, like I said to the school, I caught them off guard. I said to them, okay, if we go to child protection, what would the plan be? They were like, oh, we don't know yet. So why are you asking me then to go to child protection? I said to her that I think you have an issue with this particular parent. Don't be using us as your bane of authority, because that's not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? So check professionals as well who love to use social workers. Oh, if you don't go, I'm going to tell the social worker. No, that is not how we're meant to be working.
Let me tell you something. I have to be careful what I say. You listen very. I was going to say something else, but let me say it this way.
Yeah,
guys, when you're in your professionals meetings, any of them, especially like I work in an assessment team, so we're like the first port of call.
Yeah,
meeting of meeting a child or family, and you have to listen very carefully. Okay, you read the assessment. Listen carefully to what I'm saying, people. Read the assessment, whether it's from police or schools or even from the community. Read it carefully. What's on paper may not be true.
that's right.
Be true, or it may be worse. We don't know. You may even then read history. Be very careful about that too. Okay, because how can I say this? A teacher has presented to me concerns.
Yeah.
For example, but this is very real. And I'm listening because I'm a language person. I listen to language.
Yeah.
I like to consider myself an amateur language analyst. Yeah. I do it all the time. You have to do that a lot with parents. And this is a skill that you all should kind of dip into. Listen to people's language. They're telling you what their intentions are. They're telling you their heart. They're telling you their mind. They're telling you a lot, whether it's parents or professionals or the child. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Listen carefully to what they say, because everything they say is true. That's a way of thinking. And some professionals, they have a very professional way to present information that is very biased, but it's enshrouded in professional language, which is reasonably clinical. So you have to listen into it. And I've had experience with a number of teachers, for example, and the police, where they're presenting a risk or concern.
That's right.
That is their eyes, their perception. And you can, listen, remember what I said earlier on about legacy.
Yeah.
My job is to ensure that, for example, a child who has, and working in the youth offending service will teach you this as well. A child is on a path. They're either being exploited or they're falling into certain challenges, right? Into criminality, which is
Yeah.
a whole lot of risk. I want you to understand is that it's my job to send them on a course that they will prosper. And if I side with a professional, listen, even if 3 or 4 of them are in a room and you're like, I have seen with my own eyes and I do not agree, stand your ground.
150 million%, bro.
This is
Stand
crucial.
your ground. And you know the reason why you have to stand your ground is because if you, as a social worker, allow the rhetoric of other professionals to cloud your judgment, you could be making fatal mistakes.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is life changing.
And a lot of the times, people, the issue we're talking about power, yeah. A lot of professionals say a lot of things with chest in the meetings. When it comes to the parent, say a completely different thing. That's where you have to call them out. And I've done that. I take no issue in telling any professional, well, hang on a second, and the parent is there. This is the information you presented me. Explain to the parent, because you have to. You know what I'm saying? Because say it with chest. My thing is, bro, say it with chest. Say it with chest. If you're working, yeah, in child protection, yeah, and and safeguarding, and you have a concern, say it with chest. If you've got a particular rhetoric, say it with your damn chest. But don't be trying to sway the social worker, and it's not for us to be swayed. And if you guys feel that you're on your own, it don't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Yeah. You stand your ground, because part of what the BASWA, British Association of Social Workers, say is that we have to advocate for families. So if you see injustice, you advocate for them. That doesn't eliminate the safeguarding issues. It don't. No. But you have to also be mindful, because a lot of professionals, yeah, I don't even care if there's school teachers and everybody's in here, because I say it with chest. A lot of school teachers and everything, they will try and sway you. And sometimes families go onto plans and it's very unnecessary. So you have to make sure that you also challenge people if you see their rhetoric. Curtis made a very good point about young people in criminality. If we work with young people who are in gangs, who are doing county lines, and straight away we have the view, you know what, they're criminals, cha. Yeah, lock them up and all these sorts of things. You've got to see the child first. It's a child or young person you're working with. They're under the age of 18. You've got a statutory obligation to support them. So regardless of what's written on paper, you've got to try and make sure you change them. You could be that one professional to be in there and change them. So be aware of that. Yeah. Be aware of schools, health visitors, nurses. I know we work with them, but be aware of how they might try and sway you. Because the moment, if we're the ones end up in the courtroom, yeah, they're not there with us, you know. They're not. So just be mindful that they're not there with us. So just make sure when it comes to power, have range.
Yeah.
Know when to use it. Know when to use it. Know why you're using it. Know how you're using it, and know what you're using it for. Like the 4 things, you know, that you learn in it: the what, the why, the who, the when. Know when to use it. Know how to use it. Know why you're using it, and know what you're using it for, and make sure you rationalize it.
I wanna say something. This is very real. I think I can say this. I read an assessment that said young person is attending a mosque. We must be concerned about radicalization.
Wrong on all levels.
Right now, what has that got to do with power? It's life-changing, because then you probably, if everyone is as blind as the person or ignorant as the person who wrote that assessment, then you can get other agencies involved that will aggravate and create dissension. That's the level of power that we can have. So it's not so much in what we say, but sometimes in what we write, because we can write in the peace and safety of our office or home, and we can write things that are unfair and untrue. I don't know how that assessment was QA'd
By the manager.
by a manager, and as if maybe they didn't read it, to be fair.
Yeah.
Because you should not be allowed to get away with that, but I've seen that. But I would say that, and this is kind of more practical advice, guys. I mean, like I said, I'm always talking to students and newly qualified, right? So you can look at the chronology of a family, and it can be, am I still here?
Yeah.
Look at the chronology of a family, look at the history of a family, and you'll take a snapshot. Be careful, okay? But you need to still look at the history, okay?
Yeah.
And when you do that, you'll make a judgment. You can't help that. Information goes in, your brain makes a judgment. And then you'll read up on history. You might read a past assessment if you've got time. And then another referral comes in. Now, I say this: you don't know that family until you've met them, right? So that assessment or past history can either scare you or make it apprehensive or make you prejudge. You got to be careful about prejudgment. Prejudice is all right up to a point, but what you have the opportunity to do is meet the family and make your own judgments, because that's your job.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you can rewrite an assessment or write another assessment, taking into account their past, and make it one that they can flourish in, that you can actually set a new trend for that person, for that family, by writing in a certain way. And I'm going to do a session on assessments. You can write an assessment that guides the family to the light, you know, and it's a strengths-based assessment.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It tells the truth. This is mum. Mum was overly permissive. Or dad was abusive. Mum didn't react in time. But is a powerful word in the English language. And you can and promote life in an assessment. And that is a skill that I'm constantly working on, because I remember I was audited some time back. Oh gosh, a long time ago now. And the assessment was based on a family that I felt that there was nothing good to say.
Yeah.
But you have to find something good to say, because you want to guide the family to a better path, right? And the audit said, look, the assessment was okay, but there was nothing positive in it.
Yeah. I hear that, bro.
But I just want to guide everyone. For those of you who are just getting into this, you are writing the assessment. What did you see, and how do you feel about what you saw? Don't let too much prejudice come into it, but use the assessment as a piece of work, so that when you hand it to the family, post it, email it, whatever, they're going to use that and go, okay, I now know where I'm coming from, and I now know where I need to go.
Yeah. But can I say something, Curtis, though, which I want to... So I've been on the other side, where actually a family that I was working with, that actually, you know, it was a child protection case. I always remember this one. And it was a point whereby actually we should have actually gone into court. And we didn't. We got heavily scrutinized for it. And my sales manager and team, sat down with me. And they said to me, why is it, Nana, you didn't proceed? What was it? I said, you know, I've got a relationship with the family, and I kind of feel as though that I'll be using my power too excessively. And when we went into court, I got slaughtered in court for not bringing the case to court sooner. And my managers, obviously, we all took the hit. My manager had to go and write at the time a letter to the court as to why we took too long. But a lot of it was my reluctance to push it into the court arena. They did a session with me and said to me, Nana, look, I know what kind of social worker you are. I know you're a good social worker. I know that you want to work with families, and I know you want to make changes. You know, as you said, Curtis, you know, guide families to the light. But there's a point when you're working cases where your use of power has to be used. And in this particular instance, you didn't use it. And when we went to court, we got what do you call it? We got criticised. Now, we didn't tell the court because the social worker didn't follow through. Because you can't go and do that, innit? Do you know what I mean? You can't go and wrap me up and go and say that. But what they were saying is that you've got to be mindful. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's a good piece of reflection for me. So I know, Curtis, what you're saying, that we have to guide families to the light. And that's always my first base, that we should be doing that. But there's also points whereby, and my manager always tells me this about false positives, that sometimes in some cases that we're working with, that we also have to be realistic in terms of which way the path could go. And if it's not there, power has to be used if it's about safeguarding the children. So why I'm saying I'm reflecting is because it's about having the balance. Because like I said, I've also been on the other end when I haven't, and going into court didn't make me feel good, knowing when you know my thing about my thresholds and how things were was called into question. This is when I was a senior social worker as well. Like I wasn't newly qualified. I was a senior social worker before I got as a DTM and TM. I was senior. So I've been on the other end whereby actually there's times where I've held back. I've held back from using my power because I felt, no, I don't want to take this case into court. No. But then...
But you know, this is a challenge. This is a dilemma. Because sometimes we don't know we're right or wrong.
Yeah.
Till after the fact.
That's
but
right.
What we do, I mean, I've had situations where we're going to CP and I'm like, it's not a CP case.
Yeah.
But everybody else feels it is. And it has been rejected in my favor once recently. And this is the thing, it's a dilemma. Because CP and court is not a one-man decision. But to initiate the process, the social worker has to highlight certain things to say, well, this is...
Yeah.
But the dilemma... But
I didn't do that.
But this is the dilemma, because we're really, for the most part, required to work with families at the lowest threshold possible.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you would have discussed this with others to say, look, what do you think about this? I don't know at the time, but when we're working with a family, like, there are times when you just see something, you're like, that's CP. We know, that's going to charge.
The indicators,
But if the family's really like, I'm working with you, I didn't realize, or look, I'm not involved in that anymore. Tell me what to do. Are we going CP? That's a dilemma. It's not. We don't have the answers all the time.
Yeah, you don't. It's about judgment, and it's about knowing the power you're using when you're escalating. Is it right? Is it wrong? Do you know what I'm saying? But I think you know what? It doesn't matter which position you're in your social work career, whether you're a student, with your social worker or manager. It's you're never ever going to get it right.
100% of the time, you mean?
Yeah. I think when it comes to certain things, you're never gonna get it right. There might be times where you think your judgment's right and it's wrong, and there might be times people might go and say your judgment is wrong.
Well, recently I had a case a few months ago that was like, I could see that it was going to go to CP, but it wasn't at CP yet. But it's gone to proceedings now. So he went to CP, then it's gone to because you know what it is. You can see the structure.
Yeah.
Is broken, but it doesn't meet threshold. I can't justify bringing this to child protection because what I'm seeing is not apparent.
Yeah.
But I can see the potential.
Yeah, you can.
So it was a dilemma of discussion between myself and two other managers. Say, where are we going with this? And we're like, one manager said to me after a while, she goes, "This is going to go CP."
Yeah.
And then it's gone CP, and then it's gone, and the case has escalated madly.
It's gone straight to care proceedings, straight.
Children are going to be removed, and
yeah,
it's the potential. So it's like that Minority Report kind of situation where you're like, what do we do with this in advance? Can we remove a child because of the potential behavior? Or do we go child protection because of potential? Or do we wait for it to fall apart?
And that's the thing. And that is what you just said, exactly the thing about power. Because it's like, you're always in that dilemma. Do we wait? Let something happen. Something happens, and then damn, something happens to the child because you didn't. Or do we go straight into court but actually
yeah.
we've taken the child away from their immediate family. It's so hard. Even if you look at the threshold document, even if you look at themes within the case and patterns, it's a lot.
I mean, some families. This is how some families ride the fence. They're constantly on the borderline of either having their children removed,
Yeah,
and it never happens, or it goes to proceedings, or
yeah,
on a regular basis, or they're always on a CP. Like,
yeah,
how often? How long can I've had families like they're never coming off a CP, but they're not supposed to be on CP for long.
yeah. You can't have children on CP until they're 18. You can't
So
do.
what do you do?
Yeah, what do you
The
do?
family. I know the family's never going to change.
Yeah,
They have no intention of changing. They don't have the capacity for change. But they're just within the threshold of, well, there's nothing you can do about that, but
yeah,
work with them.
yeah.
But you can't have a family on CP for 3 years
No, you can't. You
and a
can't.
20-year history of
You,
social services involvement. What
you
do we
can't.
do with that?
You can't. You can't. So that's the reason why it's important that in this job and guys, what you're doing, you have to always reflect. You always have to reflect on you on what you're doing. You know, Gibbs reflective cycle, everything. It's all
Someone's mentioned parenting assessments. And I'm like, yeah.
yeah, guys, yeah. But no, I think like I said, I mean, the point of this live and why we're doing it is mainly just about guys. You know, everyone reflecting on your power, knowing how you're using it, knowing when you're using it, looking at yourself. Is it SCON, reflecting on action, reflecting in action. There's models for you guys to to look at. Do you know what I mean? But go on, Kev.
I want to raise something. I want to look at language and presentation. Our presentation and our language with service users.
Yeah. So even guys, professional jargon, that use of power. We're talking about if you say PLO to a parent, what does that mean? If you go and say care proceeding,
Sorry, let me just pause. I said something and I just want to correct it really quickly. Sorry. To Akua. Listen, I was saying parent assessments. I laughed because some families, it makes no difference. The assessments, they walk the line for years, and that's just
yeah.
I wasn't laughing at the parent assessment thing, but yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, carry on, bro. Sorry.
Yeah. So what I was saying is even like professional jargon that we use when you're writing your assessment, CP, PLO, pre-proceedings, you got to be mindful of that as well, and how that looks. Because even that, you're talking about families, like there's some families that used to, oh yeah, I've been in a CP, yeah, I've been in CP, I've been in SIN. You got to be mindful of how you're writing, but language and how you present. When I was at university, in my second year, I had this module called preparation for practice, and my lecturer spoke about body language.
Yeah.
And spoke about even when you are with the families that you're working with, your posture, how you communicate, that walking in to a family's house. You're doing that module now. Exactly, yeah. Walking in, how you present, how you dress. All those things there, they have a big impact. It's like people have to understand, as a social worker, you're in a very powerful position,
Yeah.
You are in a very, 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 very powerful position. So be aware of how you're presenting, your body language, how you're speaking.
Do you know what I do?
Yeah.
Most of the time put my hands in my pocket.
Do you?
Yeah. Most of the time my hands are in my pocket. It's probably the least aggravating presentation. If I've got a big jacket, if I'm meeting a young person, there are certain coats that I might wear.
Like your brown coat, isn't it?
Brown coat with a big beat back, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a couple coats upstairs. I'm like, I can't wear that, and I want to wear a couple coats I've got.
Yeah.
But I've got a long. It's like a full length coat.
Yeah.
A nice one, yeah. But I can't wear it to visit the clients because it's going to be a barrier for most people. For some families, it's not a problem. But for some others, because I don't know who, I can't wear it. And
True.
if I'm, and a lot of time I'm meeting, a lot of my cases are kids, 7, 8, 9 years young.
Yeah.
And so, all down to like 3, 4, 5 years old, I can't be dressing in a way that creates an image of despair. I have to be very careful.
True. It's true. The other day, I mean, I shouldn't have done it, but the other day I went into work wearing a full trackie, innit? And then someone said to me, "What? Is that you as the team manager wearing a trackie now in the office?" I was like, "It's Friday, so what?" It's like, so what? I actually went on a home visit to go see a family, innit? But they were like, "What are you wearing a tracksuit for now? You're a team manager." I said, "What? It's Friday. What? I can't wear a tracksuit because I'm a team manager. What does that mean?" You know what I'm saying? Normally you catch me wearing the jumper, those and whatever, but like I was wearing my trackie. Like someone said to me, "Do you work in yacht?" And I went and said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "Yeah, yeah." Someone said, "You work in yacht?" I said, "Yeah." And they're like, "That's the team manager." Like, oh, he looks like he works in yacht. But like even that, all of those things, do you know what I'm saying? I don't want my Jordans as well, but I'm just trying to say it's in how you present. It's important. Do you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna go a bit deeper. Yeah, we talk about power, innit? Because there's no directors of children's services here. Yeah. Do you know what, Curtis? When I used to go into big meetings.
They're gonna hear this, right?
Yeah, I know. When I used to go into big panel meetings here in my old borough. Listen, best believe that night before, yeah, I had my blazer. I had my trout, I had my shoes. I used to power dress. When I used to go to like senior management panel, yeah, I used to power dress. Because you know what it was? Because I was aware that, these are big, powerful people, in children's social care. I've got to present the case to them. And I'd go to the barbers, yeah. Akuya, I'm coming. I'm gonna let you jump in. I used to go to the barbers the night before, yeah, and get the maddest trim. This is even before I had the beard and everything, yeah.
It's deep.
Yeah. But Curtis, no, but the reason why I did that is because, like, in terms of their power, I'm like, these are big people. So if I'm gonna go in there, I need to match you. I need to actually match.
What are you saying now?
But when I go to those meetings. Now, when I go to these meetings now, yeah, obviously it's my jumper, my chinos. But you know what it is, Curtis, yeah? At my level right now, I don't think, no matter if you're a director or not, you're not, like, I'm not shook at you. It is what it is. I'll go to the meetings. I'll be everything. And what I try and do is, before I let a queer in, one thing I try and do when I go to senior management meetings, because a lot of social workers feel intimidated in those meetings, but not me. Right now with me, I'm like, you know what? I command the room. So when I go in there, Curtis, and I go into senior management meetings, I'm being real with you. I command that room. I literally command that room. So I don't want any more senior manager say, Nana, do you need help with presenting the case? No, I got it. What's your care plan? I got it. I command that room, Curtis. So when it comes to power, I might be a TM, but senior management, like, you're only one level above me, but I make sure I command that room. I got to use my power. Middle manager, I've got whatever power I've got at my disposal as a team manager, I will use it in the senior management arena, And I'm going to let Akuya jump in it, but I'm being real with you. Oh, we got 2 requests. Miss Intelligent, yeah, and Akuya, yeah, but it's true, because yes, they're the director of children's services and the senior management. So what? I can't command the room. You know what I mean? Believe in your source. I'm gonna let Akuya and Miss Intelligent in. Let me let them in.
Yeah, sure. But I have challenges with this.
Do you?
Slightly. But again, I'm not trying to. I'll be bringing 2. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Akuya, how are you?
What's up, Curtis? No, I'm just loving it, guys. I love it. No, I just wanted to talk on about like the clothing, right? So I agree with you. When I see my young people, I told Curtis, I was saying on the last live that I was with Nana on, I was talking about I'm part of the leaving care team. Hey guys. So for me, I can't go to my 16 to 18 plus people and be rolling in court wear. Like, that's just not gonna run.
Yeah.
I have to kind of, and the thing is, they want to see a reflection, because you're right in terms of like that's to diffuse the power imbalance too. Because when you go into their homes, they actually want to see a reflection of a social worker that represents them and that actually genuinely cares for them. Now, I agree with you, Nana. There's times where you do have to cut, you dress up, like when you go to the court or when you go to the important meetings, obviously, because that's the presentation for everyone to kind of appear cool. But I think the problem that we have here, if we look at the top, I'm trying to do research on this. If we look at the top of the hierarchy, okay, they do not, I don't care what people say, they do not reflect society.
No, it's fine.
Okay, I'm sorry, they don't. And there needs to be people, yes, there needs to be people where like ourselves, who, for me, that's come from ends that's reflective of society, to be up there. And I think that's the problem. Young people, I've heard young people say it all the time. The social worker that I had, I didn't feel comfortable to speak to them, because there was a lack of not only the communication, but they felt like they were very uppity. And you got to remember, when you're coming into these people's homes, and young people, families, and parents, the first thing that they're thinking about is power.
That's right.
You have the power over my life and my children's life at this point. And that's why you've got to diffuse it at times when you are in a setting with young people. So, for example, one young person that, it's funny you talk about paperwork, because there was one young person that I had that, the works in terms of, he's on roads, he's doing this, he's doing that. And obviously with other social workers, they hear that, they're like, oh, they don't want to be dealing with that. But when I went in there, I didn't go in there with this perception of, oh my God, I've got to be wary, because they will sense that off you. But if you're going in there and you're, showing a level of relatability, and you're telling them, look, actually, I don't know, you're the expert, let me know what's going on. It gives that human feel. There's a human approach to it. Do you understand? And I've realized how much that's diffused. And it's funny, because the foster carer was like, I knew as soon as you walked through the door, because of your energy, because of your enthusiasm, because, of those type of traits that I'm showing to the young person, that they're going to work with me very, very well. And strengths-based, let me tell you something, even with my young people, there's always strengths in concerns. Even with my young people that, for example, maybe they're not attending college, or their attendance is low, but they're ambitious, I'm gonna go on the ambitious side of it. I'm gonna speak to them and be like, do you know what you can do here? Like, you can go and travel, if you're into music, there's certain arenas that you can go to. That's all helping young people to actually understand, that it's achievable. It's not something that they can't achieve. So for me, that's how I use strength-based to understand. And you know what, I know just very quickly, I know some people often say, don't really talk about your personal background. Sometimes I do. I'd be like, look, I came from the background just like, maybe not from the same levels, but just like you, I was on ends, I was bunking school, because I want them to understand that I've got to that, this was how I was. And I had to fix up at a certain point where I had to think, what do I want to change about myself? What do I want to improve? What kind of goals do I have? And I had to show them in a way that I don't want to talk it anymore. I want to live it. And when young people see, that's why it's really important about the representation of Black, Asian, whites. It's really important, because I think young people, especially the Black community, they don't see enough of that. Yeah. And sorry to say, there are some Black practitioners that they get to that level in their career and they start using that power trip. Yeah. And you can't be doing that. That's all kind of levels of wrong. And I don't respect practitioners that do that.
But do you agree, just to ask, because you made a fantastic point here about how, and Mr. Sutherland, I'm going to come to you in a bit, how...
That's fine, I understand.
With that how when social workers or practitioners, they get into, say, management levels and they go on a power trip, do you feel that a lot of it is because of the fact that as they progress up the chain, that it becomes a bit more corporate? So ultimately, there's a certain level of power that they feel that
100%. But again, someone just said this in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone just said this in the chat though. Remember where you have to humble yourself. You have to no, real talk.
It's real,
Because
yeah, it's real.
let me tell you something here. There's a lot of let me tell you something. The same way that you get up the chain is the same way you slide down it. So you need to really learn in terms of like humbling yourself. I've always wanted to be an IRO. That's because, to be quite honest, I want to be able to oversee to oversee the care plans, but to actually connect with younger people on a level. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? That's actually why I want to be an IRO. Do you understand? But if you do not humble yourself, it's not even just in social work. If you do not humble yourself, someone's going to slap you. It doesn't have to be physical, yeah? Someone will slap you mentally and it will bring you down a notch. And I do agree, yes, when you get up the chain, there's certain things you learn, this, it's like a brand new experience. I get that. But I think that ultimately, this is where people forget, yeah? You need to remember why you was doing it in the first place. Do you understand? And that's what happens with a lot of people that start seeing these 50K pluses. They forget that. Do you understand? They actually forget about where they started from.
It's so true.
I'm telling you, it happened. We see it all the time happening. No mental slap, they need it. For real. Because it's a joke. I'm sorry.
Because people, what Aquia said, it's true. Don't forget where you started from. Don't forget where you started from. It's true. Miss Intelligent.
Hello. Right. I don't know where to start because I've got quite a lot to say quickly.
Yeah,
I don't know. Do you mind if I expose a bit of my own personal project as well as discuss the topic that you're talking about?
Of course.
Okay. So firstly, I don't know if you see my comments, but you two guys doing this live.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
I personally think you need to start up social worker informed practice guidance workshops.
100%.
That social workers can independently or through organization approach your business and your intelligence within the social work and apply for you to run courses either by Zoom or by practical. You two have great amount of wisdom between you, and the work that you do, the people that you're around, you've got a big team that would support that practice. So with regards to informing other social workers or people, even social workers that are studying social work, that are at university, that would benefit from a Zoom call or a workshop that informs the practice and the key elements of social work.
You know it's coming, in it.
It's got to come because it's a sideline. We've got to find our own things. You two are really, I've set up my own thing. So what I've just said to you has come from me doing my own thing. I'm a survivor of abuse. I've been through a lot of abuse in my lifetime, as we all have suffered, because at some stage through life, we've all had to overcome trauma of some sort, whether it be relationship, sibling rivalry, parent breakdown, mummy or daddy issues. Like, everyone's got trauma. So we need to account and accommodate and work to research and into the prevention of that. How do we prevent abuse to lower the social work case load in the first place? Because if we lowered abuse rates and the impact and the stigma that is attached to abuse as a whole, you guys won't be working. You wouldn't be working so hard. You'll be working smarter. You've got to work hard because you are working for a broken system that is outdated, needs modernizing, and does not work for the current need and demand.
Do you know what? If I can, right? Sorry, did you say what business you do? Or did you want to say that?
I do. Basically, I'm running a campaign within the Croydon Borough. So I am within talks with the Mayor of Croydon. I'm also currently doing my IDVA qualification. I do that on the 23rd of April at 9:30. People, please pray for me.
Fantastic.
Because once I get that qualification, because I'm a survivor and I've come from a personal position and now want to go into it professionally because I see failings within the system. If I can just quickly speak a little bit on my personal circumstance. So I was with an abusive partner. Was naive, young girl, thought it was just we're just arguing. It's just a normal couple. That's what I put it down to, a normal couple argument. Every couple has them. Didn't realise that it would escalate and he was keeping things from me. Alcohol problems, gambling problems, addictions. So there was a few things that he was very calculated and clever and manipulating to hide. So I wasn't aware at all of what I got into. He played Mr. Nice Guy to the point this boy got up, because I have 3 children by one, and I have his daughter that I got pregnant with on the pill. It was a mistake, but I don't ever regret my daughter. So basically, he would get up in the morning, give the other kids breakfast, stand in my dressing gown, pink dressing gown, at the sink, washing up. Mr. Nice Guy. The minute a sip of alcohol touched his lip, he turned into Hulk. King Kong wants to beat on his chest. So he was a very two-character person. I tried to help him, tried to get support. It was my birthday in 2015. So my daughter, his daughter, was born in 2014. I gave up and separated from the relationship because he slept with someone extremely close to me when I was 8 months pregnant with his daughter. I've then decided to exit the relationship. He's obviously felt guilt, remorse for what he's done, kept coming back, turning up at the door, drunk, shouting through the letterbox. Now, I didn't know how far down the line this was going to escalate. A victim or survivor, as they now call them, never knows what they are involved with. And every single social worker on this platform has had some kind of dealings with an abuse victim. Please be mindful that victim is no longer in control of her own needs, desires, or wants. She cannot control what she does, where she goes. She is in fear of her life. So as much as we stigmatize the women and victim blame, the women's got to leave, the women's got to leave, these men put hooks around their neck and saying, you're not going nowhere. And will hunt them down, harass them and stalk them until they decide that they're not listening to me. Now I've got to do something further. And the steps just escalate. The whole time, no one really knows what's going on, not even the person that's involved. So basically, he tried to take my daughter on my birthday. I'm a very dominant person, and I won't back down. I never accepted his abuse. I never stood for it, and I never allowed it in front of my children. So when he turned up, I would call the police. If he came to the address or sent abusive messages, I would log them, photocopy them. Yeah, so basically, kind of long story short, I went to the police, he was arrested. I went to a place called the Family Justice Centre. They done a disclosure on him under Clare's law and came back to me and said he's code red. Now, all these languages, we talk about professional language all the time and using it when we're dealing with people of society. They don't understand the lingo that we are using. They've never heard it. They've never had to manage it. So I had to say to them, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Me and my partner have had an argument. I've called the police. They've referred me here. Like, it was too much. I couldn't psychologically download the information that they were giving me at that specific point. So they said to me, basically, code red means he's got previous, he's high risk. We have to place you. You cannot go home. I turned around and said to that woman, you can't tell me I'm not going home, because if he's high risk, my children are currently at my house. I'm now scared of my children from what you've just told me. I need to go home. I need to get They said to me, if you leave this office, we are duty bound to inform social services immediately that you are placing your children at risk. I said, I'm not. I'm telling you, I'm not leaving. If that's what you're telling me, I'm not leaving my children a second longer. I need to get back to my kids. So they've now tapped into my natural, maternal, protective mother instinct. I've gone into overload. So they said to me, we cannot allow you to leave. We will get someone to go and get your kids. Can you phone a friend to get all their belongings together, a quick bag, and we will bring your children to you and place you with your children. So I said, yeah, that's fine. Do you know what? This is about my kids. Do what you've got to do. Just please bring my kids to me. So they went and got my kids, brought them to the centre. We were placed within the London area that night. He Oh, it's so long. I don't even know if I can. So basically, sorry, this is triggering for me. So basically,
Oh,
we
pause a second.
Pause. You want to pause?
I want you to pause and just think about what you want to say, because remember, what you say is out there.
Yeah.
no, it's not nothing I've not put out there before.
All right.
I know.
And I am happy to put my story out there
I know.
because my camp.
I know, but just be mindful, just because I want to make sure you're safeguarded as well.
Yeah. Do you know what? Let me get on to the story. So this was 8 years ago. I am completely free. This was ancient history. So the reason that I am so passionate about what I do now is I engage with every authority, social services. When they did an assessment on me, they went back to the services involved and said, we are not going to get involved with her. She does not meet our criteria. And any planning strategy or safety planning that we would put in place, this woman is already coming to us and saying she's already done it. So i.e. engaging with authorities, phoning the police if he turns up, keeping any evidence. I did all of it. They didn't have to tell me because I did this to safeguard my children as a mother. He basically sorry, I've lost my point. I lost what I was saying there for a second. I just see that someone said it's very good to let women know. It's very good law to let women know if they're at risk. I understand that, but you do have. Sorry, go on.
Why are you telling us this story?
So basically, once I got placed, I engaged with the story with the authorities, and then 3 years down the line, because the orders has expired, so the domestic notification protection order or the domestic violence
DVP.
sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
Yes. So once they'd expired, obviously organisations have a really bad habit of not communicating well, and their systems don't match up. So what one organisation knows, another one does not, and that alerted in my case. He's phoned me up one day and said, I'm your new neighbour. I said, what do you mean? He said, I live in your area, I know where you are, and I am your new neighbour. So I phoned up the authorities and I said, he's given me this information under threat. Can you tell me if this information is true? The organisation that I was working with at the time came back to me and said, unfortunately, we're going to have to, this is true. He lived on the road next to me. The safety was breached. So after I've engaged, gone through all the assessments, done what I've had to do, got myself and my children in a place of safety, started to rebuild our lives after that, a failing in the system breached my safety all over again and put me and my children back to square one. To the point this guy found out where I lived, because if we live in the same area and on the road next to me, you can't avoid me. And I had to go around the houses to go to the shop to buy a pint of milk. This happened for 4 months. They removed him for the area and left me in a house for 17 months. They breached my safety. I could have died from that. So the system fails. All the hard work and effort that you guys put in, and there's 46 people as well as yourselves in this life, the system lets you all down, as well as the people you work for. Because if failings like that are still occurring, what are we all working for? Do you know there's no current government guidelines at where a victim can be housed from a perpetrator? So years down the line, 15, 10, when these victims are dealing with years of trauma and the effects on their mind and body of that, there is no government protection to protect them from being housed near that person, unless it's a lifelong order.
So what I want to ask you, Mr. Intelligent, because what you've actually said is very, very powerful, and I want everyone to obviously make sure to take note of what you said and your story. I think it's very commendable for you to come on the live and explain your story and the gaps in the system. Because obviously we're talking about power, because you've mentioned a lot of things relating to power. Do you feel that there is a power imbalance, which is why the system is failing, in terms of for social workers or for anyone who's
I 100% agree with you. People are working in positions of power with their personal egos involved.
And what do you think needs to change? Like you mentioned about egos, but how do you feel the power can be a lot more balanced, particularly, you know, with you, because we're branching out a bit more further now in terms of like children's services and other agencies. What do you feel actually needs to change for things to actually be better? You know,
I feel
you get
healthy communication needs to happen. I feel that everyone needs to work, all these authorities work for the same purpose, to safeguard, protect, and benefit the lives of the people that they work with. If all systems were working in alignment to each other, that job would be executed 100 times more efficiently.
so your thing is that making sure that power is distributed equally amongst every single professional, not every.
Because their end goal is the same, the outcome and the purpose has the same. We all do this for our own reasons, out of love, care, and purity, because we want to see people do better. We want to help people to do better. It's nice to see people flourish and do well in life. And if you can contribute to that of someone else, that is the most purified, innocent act that we can humanly do. To help someone when they have been hit, knocked, or burnt down in life, to get back up and say, do you know what? You're not done yet. That's just a journey that you had to go on to mold you into who you've now become.
Do you know what Miss Helen mentioned? Yeah, and Curtis, I want you to chip in, and Aquia, you can as well. One of the things that's the bread and butter of our job role and social work, yeah, because Miss Taylor's made a very good point about sharing power. It's together. Now, I've said it on so many lives and so many times that working together to safeguard children is a government document, yeah, that anybody can access. And ideally, the basis of it is about multi-agency, which is what Mr. Intelligence say about multi-agency working. It is about kind of sharing power and basically sharing the work and sharing, you know, so to speak, the caseload. You know, everybody needs to be working with the family that we're working with. I think, unfortunately, the system at the moment right now that we're working in doesn't reflect that.
No.
And what you find, particularly with social workers, is that, particularly, Ms. Tesh, what you're saying about when we are working with, you know, a lot of the families that we're working with, that ultimately we feel as though that the power and responsibility is on one particular agency.
Yeah.
And when we try to share that power and responsibilities, we find that a lot of professionals don't really want it.
Can I just interrupt you and say why? Because I had the same thing with me. You social workers are the forefront puppeteers for the service that you work for. Now, I mean that no disrespect to your job whatsoever, because my cousin is a social worker and she prides herself on helping people. So what you do is amazing. But unfortunately, the system's broken.
The system is broken, and I also think that a lot of professionals don't want that power and responsibility because they're scared of mistakes.
Yeah.
I think for me, you know, recently Curtis came on one of our other podcasts called The Panel. And one of the things Curtis said, which is very powerful, is that social workers are always on the back foot. And the system that we work in is kind of, it's designed to kind of set us up to fail, that we feel like that. And I think with respect to professionals who are in here, that it's easy to give responsibility to the social workers.
100%.
You know,
how many social workers become responsible within murder reviews?
Every single social worker, and you know what?
Yep.
But yet the services that worked with them before that happened and before the social worker was involved are not responsible.
And this is the point. And this is, I was going to say, this is the point, that unfortunately, when we're looking at power and we're looking at serious case review, ultimately one entity is looked at, and it is social services. And you made a fantastic point to say that actually we're not the only ones who work with children, young people, and families,
No.
but because we're the ones who go into the home more
Mhm.
than our professional colleagues and our partners, that ultimately we're seen as the ones where actually you've got all the power in the world, so you should, you know, if anything, the liability and responsibility is with you guys, is with social services, and that's not really how it should be. Sharing power is not actually a bad thing, but I kind of feel as though that the professionals in the background who work with us ultimately, you know, I mean, nobody wants to have, you know, to hear that, you know, a child or anything has died on their caseload, and nobody wants to be the face on that newspaper. Nobody wants to be. No authority wants to be part of that. But I think what you said is right. I think for me, if more of our professional partners took a bit more of a grapple hold and actually owned the power that we were giving them, I think things would be a lot more even. And it goes across domestic violence. You know, I mean, I've had domestic violence services who, when they come to conferences, they don't want to attend. Okay, take that the perpetrator's out there, even if the perpetrator's not. They don't want to attend conferences. They don't want to go and make recommendations and say, well, it's not our professional capacity. But you are working with the victim who's got children. So
I'm fighting to change this. I am. Campaign. If everyone can go and pay Survival Instincts 2020, go and have a look, see the information, some of the captions that I've put on some of the posts there.
yeah,
Everyone will understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. I am really campaigning to support the whole system as a whole, because if we all work better within ourselves, we can execute a better practice, a better structure, and a better system for everyone involved.
we can.
Can I
Not
just
just the
interject?
profession, but the children we work with.
We can.
Can I just interject very quickly? So,
Don't agree.
yeah, so Miss Intelligence, I just want to thank you so much for sharing it, because actually, and one other thing as well is that with professionals go through their own struggles, and that doesn't come into the forefront either. So there are a lot of young people, mothers, and family members, whoever's watching this, including professionals, that are going to really appreciate your story. So I really want to thank you. This is why I say, I just want to touch on two things about multi-agency working. This is the problem. And the thing is, we have health, okay? Health should be involved. There are other agencies that should be involved, and we should be sharing the responsibility equally,
United
okay?
Force.
Yeah, 100%. But let me say something to you, Miss Intelligence. I want to say this in a way that's empowering to you, okay?
Okay, thank
People
you.
like yourself, okay, is what makes the change, because like you said,
100%.
the system is broken. And what I've noticed is that, and I'm correct me if I'm wrong, for those that are in the chat, I feel like there are a lot of social workers and there are a lot of other professionals in different multi-agency settings that are sick and tired of the repetitive failures of the system.
Yeah.
And so what they do is that they say, do you know what, look, I've got a plan where this is where my interest lays, whether it's in domestic violence, unaccompanied minors, you name it, right? And then they make their own projects and they present this to the government and they work with others in chair like you're doing yourself. And it's those services that bring out the best in the community. It's those services that are advocating strongly, particularly in your case where it's regarding domestic violence and women. I feel like that is where your strength is, and actually through your experiences you are going to help a lot of women who have gone through this. And this is what I mentioned about the reflection.
I know how I was failed. So when we were moved, we were put in a 2-bedroom flat. I wasn't put in a refuge. I had 4 children. My daughter was 18 months, my youngest, and my other was 10. My daughter had 4 high schools. We were moved 4 times. I had to invest in CCTV myself because I've said I am not doing this to my children again. There is nothing out here that addresses the behavior of these perpetrators, but you go through victim after victim after victim. these perpetrators can have 3-4 families each.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. And
you're penalising and victim blaming the women and children, or the men and children, the families that are on the receiving end.
but
What
this is what
funding
I'm saying about
is put into
your work.
perpetrator behaviour?
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying about your work, right? So in terms of the project that you're bringing out, do you
Yeah,
know how many women are going to tap into that service and be like, "Damn, this is exactly what I'm going through. I
exactly.
need," and that's why I'm encouraging a lot of people that are in the chat too. If you see gaps, okay, and you are strongly passionate in making change, because you know, like we've mentioned, the system is failing in areas.
Yeah,
There are gaps all over the place in different kind of arenas, right? If you are strong in making change,
Mhm.
you've got, unfortunately, we have to do it ourselves, and it is the little changes. And as you know, you're going to even learn so much yourself, Miss Intelligent, because you're going to be working with people, hearing a lot more stories, seeing what other services are out there, and working with other people that also want to build projects, right? And your company will begin to grow because of it. And that is why I'm saying that we need to stop I don't want to say stop, but I think we need to sit down and say, look, hey, look, what can we do to make the change? Because the problem is, we know what the issues are. We've been talking about it for decades, but you are actually making action. That's the difference between talking and
That's
making
yeah.
right.
an action.
That's right.
So yeah, that would be my point. You're doing more, to be
I
quite
really
honest, than
appreciate
what the
that.
system is doing.
That is so
Okay,
positive feedback. Thank
and
you.
and and that's how I see it. And when we're talking about women particularly, there is, you know, we've only got, unfortunately, the police and the other, you know, multi-agency services have only caught up onto the reality of what women actually go through: harassment, you
Yeah.
know, honor killings, all of it, right?
I am doing
And
this fully
so
independently. I currently have no funding. I
yeah,
keep getting doors closed. You're not qualified. You're not qualified. So I've got to pay for my IDVA qualification because there's currently no funding available for an IDVA qualification, which I think's ludicrous. So I'm campaigning for that.
Yeah.
I am doing my abuse awareness prevention workshops completely independently. I'm paying for this out of my own pocket at the moment. I don't know how to apply for funding. I'm learning. I'm on a learning curve of trying to build my own legacy, but help that legacy benefit other people and
and
leave something
you
long
will, Miss
after I'm
Intelligent.
gone. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
years after I've gone, these
yeah.
practices that I've implemented and I've said this needs to happen because this is what's failing, that's going to happen generations after me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you will make the change very quickly. You will make the change, and it's about what you're doing right now. So whereas
Yeah.
you're being open, you're going on platforms, you're speaking about these things, you know, even blogs, you know, there are so many different arenas now. Social media is so powerful that even like
100%.
TikTok shorts will be so effective, and that is what it
I've
is
even started a
bringing it out
GoFundMe
there.
page just to
Yeah.
help cover some of the costs that I'm going to personally incur
Good. Good.
because of the costs that are involved in changing the system. And
Yeah.
if we can't get the government involved and they're not willing to listen, then I'm going to have to put it in front of their faces, put it on their desk and say, here it is. This is what I'm doing. You lot can stay over there and do what you're doing. Let me do my thing and see if it works better.
Yeah. I want to bring in Curtis. Curtis.
Yeah, yeah. Look, so much to say, right? Give me a minute.
Sorry.
No. Give me a minute. You know, the system that we have is good, but it's got gaps.
Hmm.
I don't like to use the term broken, but I get what people mean. But I would say it's got gaps in it that sometimes people fall through, and we see that every system we got in this country, whether it be health, education, social care, police, fire service, all of that, they've all got massive gaps in them. And
Yeah.
it's frustrating because sometimes I work with families and they fall through the gaps and there's nothing I can do. I'm watching it happen because that's just the way
And
it
it's
is.
heartbreaking for you.
The system isn't designed to be perfect. Wasn't set up perfectly. But
No.
I would say to you that I want to just catch on a few points and I'm going to encourage you in a second, right? Because I had a call this week. I'm just write that down because I keep forgetting. Abuse is always going to be there, right?
Hmm.
Especially in areas where we was talking about today at work. When you find levels of poverty, abuse is always going to be there. Worldwide, abuse is killing
Yeah.
everyone, right? DV, sexual abuse, all of that. It's always going to be there. That is a problem in itself. What we can do over time is change culture to make it more unacceptable. The government has recently announced that they want to make anyone perpetrators of DV to be sex offenders registered.
Yeah.
That's a culture change, because that mark against anyone is like, listen, you don't want that. Murder maybe, but sexual offender, no. I want to say this as well. I had a call last week. Man, it was Monday. And someone called me through the platform and said, look, I need your advice. I've seen a gap in the service. Can we talk about it? Sure. Spent about half an hour on a call. And my expertise was to help her understand how the system works, because what she was initially proposing was something that's already been done. But I said, what it is that there's a gap here, follow that gap.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would advise you, you've got to be careful how you approach this, okay? Because the noise that we make determines who listens.
Yeah.
So you're still triggered and there's a lot of passion there, but you've got to hone that, okay?
Yeah.
Because
I'm still learning how to.
Right, and that's why you got to now be, this is my final point with you, you've got to be patient, because you're on a you've said it, you're on a learning curve. Find a gap, learn how to speak and communicate by managing your story.
That's right.
Yeah. Otherwise, people will walk by. Why? Because the system isn't designed to listen to you. But social media is changing that. You've got to act the part. As a social worker, I have to act the part. You know, it doesn't matter what's in my heart. If I've got a concern about someone being unfairly treated, the way I communicate it will determine whether anything's done about it, you know? And so you have to be patient with yourself. If you want to make a change, yeah, you do have to be qualified in something. And I said it to this other person as well. They weren't qualified in anything. I said, you have to do it. It's just the way it is. Do you need it? Yes or no? Yes or no? But we've got to play the same song, because we're stepping into the system.
Yeah.
If you want to make changes, you've got to play the role, get in there, and impress others to follow you.
Yeah.
100.
Don't be angry with the system. Just learn to work with it, because it's the only way things will change. I'm sure.
I want to
100%.
say one final thing, because I want to make sure that I do save this live. Yeah. One of the things, that Curtis crystallized it a lot, but misintelligence, because of what you're doing, and Aquia said it as well. Representation is key.
Yeah.
But you have to be aware of the arena that you're in. And it's something that I've had to learn as well when I've gone up through the chain, that I've got to articulate myself and present myself in a certain way if I want to be listened to. I know, particularly in social work is very much, it's a female-dominated profession. There's not a lot of black men, in social work, let alone young men who were in there. So I'm aware of the fact that in certain arenas, I have to be conscious. I look around the room. There's certain message that I have to make sure that, in essence, what I'm saying to you is play the game. And very much, and very much be aware of that, because even Curtis gave me that advice as well, that unfortunately the language that you're speaking to me and Aquia and Curtis, they're not going to speak your language.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just about making sure, use the power that you've got. We're talking about power. Use the power that you've got, but make sure you have the range available to you.
This is why I've now paid for my IDVA qualification, so I've got the qualifications.
You've mentioned a lot about the gaps in the system, and you're aware of that. But you just need to make sure that you have the range available to you, that when you are approaching those at the top, they will listen. Go for it, Curtis. Go for it, man.
I just want to say one more thing, actually. Here's a piece of advice. I like to speak in a very metaphoric way. That's the way I talk. Right? I want you to sell your story and your service as the safest place for me to come if I'm being abused.
Yeah.
So,
that's beautiful.
Do you get what I'm saying? So
yeah.
You sell it by not necessarily just by what you're saying, but by how you're presenting.
That's right.
Presenting is like different.
Energy speaks. It goes back. My energy will outweigh.
So imagine if I'm someone who's being abused right now. I want you to sell what I should come to you. Number one. Number two, if I was the one that was in a position of power and I've holding the purse strings or decision maker, I want you to tease me, sell it to me, seduce me. Yeah. There's a way to do that. It takes a little bit of time to learn it, but it is so important because remember, you want to support women because the vast majority is about 85% are women, okay, of the abused. You're talking to this is England now, every race in the world is here.
Yeah.
And they're all victims. Where I work, DV is and sexual abuse is one of the biggest things that we got on our plate. That's my caseload, you know. And I have to walk into a home and try to sell to the victim, you can talk to me.
That's right.
That's your job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your job to sell it. And that becomes how do we talk, how we look, and it's not the color of his skin. It's your service that you're providing. You got to put spray paint on that. You got to put perfume on that because you want funding and support.
Yeah.
Tempt me, seduce me, and that's how it works.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I want to say, you know, to everyone on the live who's joined, but Miss Intelligent, I want to say thank you very much for putting forward and being open and vulnerable in this live with everybody who's been listening. You know, what you've demonstrated is lived experience, and you've also reflected and touched upon what we spoke about. And I want everybody to go and follow Miss Intelligence. Yeah.
Can I just...
And
go on, Curtis.
No, I was going to say, and I can't see the name of the person.
Oh, Aquia, I was going to say Aquia, yeah, and Aquia as well.
Yeah.
Aquia is the second time.
Can I just add to that one thing my campaign also projects is feeling comfortable to voice and speak your truth.
Yeah.
If I can't speak my truth and be honest about why I started and where I originated from, how can I help people feel comfortable to do the same? How can I ask people to trust me to do the same when I can't bear my reasoning, but I want them to explain theirs?
Absolutely. And that's powerful.
Is that a question or
We have to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So was that a question or a statement?
It's a statement and a question, basically. How many people are going to feel comfortable within their truth and be able to voice it enough to get the help and support they need? Because how many people lie to us and say, oh no, it's not that bad, it's not that deep, but it's because of the perception and the judgment.
But this is why you give them the tools. So when you're providing your service, right? And this is where I love the way Curtis put it, because this is precisely the point. So when you are doing when you're providing your service, it's about the tools you give to them. You're teaching them, actually, this is how you do it in this manner, because the problem is, if you there are going to be other women who are very raged, rightly so, because their voices haven't been heard. But it's the way you articulate yourself, it's the way you present it,
and that's where my fire comes from.
And I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you, Hun. You have to be the representation of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So they need to see that reflection in you in order for them to understand how to articulate themselves.
Controlled and energy aligned.
Exactly.
I understand completely.
It's what to live behavior, isn't it? Yeah.
The one that's overcome. That's right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. I need to kind of, because I'm a fiery, passionate, forward foot.
That's perfect.
So I need to rein it in the profession that I'm going into. I completely get that.
Absolutely.
It's just learning. That's the learning curve that I'm on, as well as the journey.
It's like that guy that turns up to say, I'm going to teach you all how to lose weight, and he shows up what
Yeah, I get it completely. You've got to sell what you're speaking.
Absolutely. No,
it goes back to your point.
100. No, but
you see that learning is good.
No, honestly, thank you so much. You know, Aquia, thank you so much as well. Kurt, thank you. Everyone in the audience, thank you. Guys, listen, this is all CPD as well. It's continuous professional development. Yeah, no, I'm just plugging it because so you can use this for your professional development. All this It's all part of social work. It's all about being a practitioner. Doesn't matter whether you're a student or not. It's all part of it. I do agree, Curtis, with Misintelligence that actually, well, me and you are speaking anyway. So we've already got our thing in the background. But guys, this is CPD. I am going to save this live. I want you guys to make sure you follow Misintelligence. And Misintelligence, and me, we're going to actually speak as well, because I do want you on the panel as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anything you guys can think of, any points, any constructive criticism, any advice, anything you think will help me progress, I am open, completely bare soul to learning.
Yeah. Nah. But honestly, thank you all. I am going to say this guy, Misintelligence, if you follow us and follow Curtis, I'll tag you in here. I've got you already as well, innit?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so I'm going to tag you all. So guys, just thank you so much. I want you guys to follow the Social Work Race. Yeah, Curtis is on TikTok. He's on YouTube. You know, he's doing fantastic work. Yeah, he's doing a lot of fantastic work.
Well done,
Curtis also, we are branded partners as well. So the Social Work and the Mentor and Social Work Race are branded partners. You know, so guys, you can follow us both. We're doing a lot of collaboration. You know, but you know, just
don't forget about the one I put forward.
Yeah, and
make sure that gets done.
So follow us on the page. Any content, you need to get on TikTok as well. You know,
I'm on there. We're gonna go for a YouTube channel and a podcast soon.
That's right. Absolutely.
We're escalating it.
Can I just say one thing though, guys? That are, if you haven't followed, you need to be following, because I don't know what you're playing at. But the second thing is, I just want to say this for the record, because a lot of people that are in the chat are women. We have to give Curtis and Nana their props. They are black, strong, handsome men.
They're leading the way. We can see it.
Come onto the platform.
You're gonna have your ducklings aligned soon.
Right, yeah, that have come onto the platform to represent, and I think it's really important because, you know, like Nana was saying, rightly so, and Curtis will probably agree. There is, you know, compared to like black women and women in general, black men are underrepresented in social work. Okay, and so if you have other people who are interested in social work and they're a bit not sure and they're a black man, you know, get them to see these type of podcasts, inspire them, you know, and at the end of the day, we are a family, regardless of what discipline, you know, what profession we're in, whether it's social work, health, you name it, we're all here for the same cause, which is really to change people's lives and safeguard people, and we do it for our own reasons and for our own backgrounds and etc. So 100%. I just want to say thank you so much, Curtis and Nana, because I don't think we give, you know, black men do not get enough credit as it is. And when they are in the profession, you know, we want male role models to be able to show up and show out all the time, and this is the way they're doing it, and they're doing it in the most smartest, strategic and real form, and I think we just need to give them their props and thank you guys so much.
No, thank you guys. You know, thank you so. And like I said, I mean, part of, you know, our platforms that we do, we know other platforms, you know, particularly as black men, we know that a lot is to do with like relationships, and we want to be different. We want to be better. We want to be a lot more constructive. And you're right. There's a lack of representation of black men in the field, and you know, I hope that, you know, when I go on podcasts, you can see me and say, you know what, he's a black male, he's a manager, but he's real. I want people to be seeing that, and the same thing with Curtis as well. You know, that's the main thing. But yeah, no, thank you so much, guys. Like I said, we will be coming into universities as well. But Akua, we need to speak. Misintelligent, we also need to talk as well. Yes,
we do. Thank you. Thank you to everyone in the comments for your lovely statements. They're lovely. All the responses. Thank you. It's just encouragement that will make me go further.
No,
so much appreciated.
No, thank you guys. So guys, I'm gonna save the live and I'll tag you in. But everyone else, have a blessed evening. Honestly, yeah, have a blessed evening.
Thanks very much.